Hello again.
Hello.
I was just thinking that the last couple of these I've done has been with internal team members, which is really fun. But it's so nice to have new faces too and new things to talk about. So I'm pretty jazzed to continue having the conversation we've been having it's been a month-ish now. So a lot of buildup. But yeah, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Very excited to be here.
Love it. And as people join, say hi in the comments. It's always fun to see who is joining and where you're from, maybe. I love when people do that. It's fun to see how spread out everyone is across the US, sometimes the globe. But as we have people join, maybe we can kick things off with a little round of intros. If you've ever joined a LinkedIn Live, you might recognize me. I'm Jamie Duong. I'm the marketing manager at Celarity. I've been here, like 2.5 years now. Before that, I worked in healthcare, worked in the tech space. I bopped around a little bit, but I'm really happy to find myself here today with these two. So Aaron, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jamie. Hi, my name is Aaron Komo, and I'm Director of Growth over at The Socialites. We're a marketing agency specializing in social media. So, anything that's on the internet, we do it. Been here for just over 2 years. Have played, or worn a couple of hats, mostly in the client services, account management, and now moved into growth. But have been in social for essentially my entire sort of career of adulthood and the last decade, both agency side and brand side. Started at Carmichael Lynch, went over to brand side at Target and Noom, and now back agency side. And for me, social is just the spearhead for a brand in 2024. It's where creative and strategy are always hand in hand, and can't seem to quit it. Over to you, Aiyanna.
Thanks, Aaron. My name's Aiyanna. I'm a Director of Marketing at Marketing Architects. We're a TV agency, originally based in Minneapolis, went remote in 2020, now fully national, have team members across the country. I'm on the marketing for the marketing agency side of things, which makes things a little fun to explain to your grandparents what your job is. You're like a marketer for marketing services to marketers. But I run more of kind of our content side of things in partnering with sales to get new clients for the agency.
I love it. Yeah, I know I said before, I'm so jazzed that you both are joining us today. I know you're both really busy. Anna, your team has a podcast that I try to catch as often as I can.
We do, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. I highly recommend it to anyone joining. And then Aaron, you have a really busy team. I think I personally last caught up with them at the social media breakfast. They were talking all about pizza rolls, which ignited a craving I don't think I've had since I was like 16 or 17. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we are often talking about pizza rolls for sure.
Yeah.
We don't have a guest though, so I guess it sounds like we could be even busier.
I know.
I have a podcast about pizza rolls.
I'd listen.
There you go. Yeah.
I love it. All that to say, so we're here to talk about the marketing agency world as a whole, which is a big topic. And we have a few key areas that we want to hit. But as always, to everyone joining us, please comment with any and all questions you have in the comment section. We'll be keeping an eye on that and answering as many as we can in real time. Otherwise, we promise to follow up and answer them after this conversation as well. So don't be shy. Okay, let's set the stage a little. I've been poking around preparing for today, and I've seen recent estimates put the number of agencies in the US and Canada at just over 45,000, which is quite a bit. In 2018, 2/3 of those agencies had 10 or less employees, but headcount has grown and has been pretty consistent in growth over the past 6 years. But still, I think there are 90% or more of these agencies have fewer than 50 employees. So that's kind of the world we find ourselves in today. The vast majority of these agencies are smaller to mid-sized shops, which means there are a lot of small but mighty teams doing a lot of work, which is why I'm excited to get both of your perspectives today. You've both been in the agency space for a while, and I'm just really curious, and I think it'd be a good place to kick off the conversation with asking both of you, how has the reality of working in an agency now compared to when you first began changed? And then if there's anything that people might be surprised to learn about the agency world. Aaron, maybe you can kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what has certainly changed is my most open apps. Some of them didn't even exist 10 years ago in the social space specifically. But, if I had to name one thing today, I think it's how we're working. It's not too long ago where we'd go into a conference room and we'd all sit around a speakerphone, and dialing in was like as critical as the meeting link. And now that just seems like another world. And so in hybrid work environments, we now have so many tools that supposedly, right, are designed to keep us in constant communication and to be able to have multiple work streams. But sometimes that often leaves us a bit more siloed, or sometimes it stunts collaboration. And so I do think now what's changed is that I have to come in with like a greater level of awareness and intentionality of, yes, with all these tools to communicate, I now have to make sure that what I actually intend to bring to the team is what they go away with and what they keep moving the work along with. The second part of your question around, what maybe is unexpected, I actually crowdsourced a little bit from the team here. For those earlier in their careers, they said like, for sure, yes, the fast pace, that's affirmed. But they were surprised by how like the micro moments, whether it's like nurturing relationships with clients or teams, like can also be as impactful. Another younger colleague said, like, don't sleep on Excel functions. They seem to really be helping her a lot, and she didn't expect that. But, from colleagues that are more of my peers, been in this for the last decade, I think, despite the turbulence of ever-changing, constant change, quick pace, that they bring about really emotionally rich relationships and long-standing relationships, which really resonated with me. And I think that is special about agency.
I love that. That's great to hear. And I'm so impressed that the youths are staying up on their Excel. It's a potent tool. I do highly recommend. How about you, Aiyanna?
I think I really would just echo a lot of what you said, Aaron. I've been at Marketing Architects 4 years now, and I like to say in that time, it's kind of felt like 4 different companies that I've worked at. And I don't think that's just Marketing Architects. I think that's the nature of agency life. I think that's the nature of advertising, just because marketing trends are constantly changing, client expectations are changing, technology, we have AI now, all of this is so different. And like as an agency, you want to be ahead of it. You don't want to just be keeping up, right? But the biggest thing for me too, same with you, Aaron, I interviewed here in early 2020. So right before the whole world changed. My final interview was in person at their Minneapolis office. Literally the next day, everything was shut down. The country was shut down. Everyone was working remotely, including me as I onboarded a few months later. And at the time, we thought this is all temporary. Flash forward, we're still remote. We're not even hybrid. We're fully remote team, not really looking to go back to the office anytime soon. And that just changes everything about how we work. That changes like, how are we collaborating well and making sure that we are still being creative and brainstorming and, team bonding. How does that all work remotely? To like, how do you communicate with clients and what are their expectations for everything in a remote world? So that's been the biggest shift. And then also as a TV agency, there's been a huge shift from like linear, like cable broadcast TV to, your Netflix and Hulu's of the world. So for me on the content marketing side of things, that's just a whole new language to learn, especially with like some terminology that the industry itself is not really figured out yet. So a lot of change happening in that moment right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's all an incredible, I know it's just changed so much. I mean, we can all point back to like 2020 obviously is a huge like milestone, but even before that, like streamers, social platforms, new ones popping up, and a lot of change. But you mentioned hiring, which brings me to another question, and I'll preface this with some background context. U.S. advertising and agency employment has been growing like gangbusters, hitting numbers that we haven't seen for over 20 years. But then really rather recently, the industry lost 2,200 jobs in May, which is the first dip in quite a while. So I think where that maybe puts us is, we might not be in this mode of hyper growth like the last few years with some of those larger agencies right-sizing their teams this year. But when agencies like yours, both of yours, do bring on new team members and do look to grow, what are you looking for in candidates? Maybe those like early to mid-level positions, especially those that involve more like strategy and creative work. Anna, maybe you want to take the first stab here.
Yeah, I think what has been helpful for me early in my career is a certain level of adaptability. Like we just talked about, there's so much change all the time, and you need to be able to be a little bit flexible with that. I also think I've talked with a few people that this is the era of generalists, like being able to do a little bit of everything, or at least know a little bit about multiple areas of marketing is super helpful, especially like early in your career as you're maybe figuring out, is there an area that you want to niche down more into? And then just like we have AI now, being able to like jump into that and not just be like, oh, here's this new thing to learn, but like taking the initiative to like, no one knows how to do this. This is entirely new to everyone. I can't go learn from an expert. I have to like take action and start to figure things out. So like the willingness to learn and flexibility, I think, are huge.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, and I agree on the AI front. The curiosity definitely has to be there, and you gotta, across the board, but that's a big one. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I certainly would think, 4 years ago I would have answered this differently, and now when we think about like that next generation of talent and the sort of non-traditional, maybe academic experiences there have been over the last 4 years, whether it's been like remote learning or, stunted hands-on or in-field internships or, not always easy access to professors or mentors. I find myself now like more in tune with trying to understand potential candidates, ways of learning, or to your point, how they stay curious, how they foster collaboration with others. I think now it's clearer that some of the more, cognitive skills are easier to train in, and that gap is easier to close or faster to close. It's more of those character skills like adaptability that give me a greater sense of how they would approach strategic work or creative work and what it's like to work with them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Okay, I kind of touched on this earlier, but the industry has grown quite a bit and had a pretty recent, maybe potentially very temporary contraction. And I've seen reports that global ad revenue is expected to grow by nearly 8%, which is up from 5%, which was predicted in December. US ad revenue is expected to grow nearly 6%. So all great numbers, but here at Celarity, we're still hearing from agency contacts of ours that there have been big changes to how agencies work with clients this past year or so. Things like clients wanting to move from retained to more project-based work, more clients bringing creative projects in-house. So I'm curious what both of you are seeing and experiencing and how you go about pitching the value of your unique ecosystems to your clients. I'll throw this one to Aaron first, I think.
Yeah. 10 years ago in social, the question we were trying to answer was why social, right? Like, why should you be on Instagram? Why should you use Twitter as more than just customer service? And now it's how social, right? Marketers these days, they know social needs to be a part of their marketing mix. And so now they're more interested in best in class social, innovative social, a little bit more hacky and more creative. And, on the flip side, we are also really aware that marketing organizations that are shifting to be more integrated with social, with that comes structural change and operational change, new processes, new tools, new way of making things. So that is really how we're demonstrating our unique value these days, which is like, if you want to show up on social, how can we help you show up, the best wherever you are in your journey with social marketing? And then also, what do you need to get there? What hasn't changed is the desire for virality. I've certainly heard that over the last 10 years consistently. And of course, there's no exact science to that, but it is fun when you're on a team where viral is a common W, and it makes it certainly a lot more fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys get the request at the end, like, we just want a viral video. That's all. Is that too much to ask?
Just that.
Yeah, no, I love that. How about you, Aiyanna?
Yeah, so Marketing Architects is an all-inclusive TV agency. And what that means is we cover the cost of everything a client needs to be successful beyond media. So that's like strategy services, creative services, analytics. That's all kind of like bundled into our all-inclusive solution, which we believe adds a lot of value beyond, saving the client from having to go do that all themselves. But we are just a TV only agency. We don't buy digital, and we know our clients aren't just on TV. So we also like to really try to act as like a holistic marketing strategy partner. That's how we like to think of ourselves, as like your partner. We know we are only successful when our clients are successful, when their businesses are thriving. So wherever we can jump in to like help them achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do, I'm sure. There and now, maybe we could zoom out a little and talk about like bigger trends or challenges for agencies when it comes to traditional media. Like you mentioned, Anna, you've got like the streaming wars and the seemingly endless options there. On the digital front, you've got the move from third-party cookies to first-party. On social, Reddit has moved into the paid social space. There's a potential TikTok ban. I mean, there's a lot going on. So I'm just very interested to hear from both of you what industry trends you're watching closely, and then what challenges take up the most real estate in your day-to-day. Maybe I'll throw this one to you first.
Yeah, so being on the marketing side of the agency and trying to get new clients, I'm very aware of like how the buying cycle is changing for B2B right now. The people are making up their minds about who they want to work with far sooner in the like buying process. And so for the marketing team, that's how do we make sure we're in that like early stage consideration set. And that's just like building our brand awareness as an agency, which I think as a smaller mid-sized agency, maybe you don't think about that as much. Or maybe that's like not a top priority compared to like, well, let's just like do the sales part of it, get new clients on right now. But I think that's becoming more and more important in order to show up like really well right away, be in their like mindset of options, and then have resources for them to do like research on their own before they maybe have a sales conversation too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And we're kind of seeing a similar thing. And as somebody who also runs the marketing for the marketing organization, always fun. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, every day I wake up and there's like a new platform, right? Or a new platform capability. And so some of the things, besides AI, that's a whole big bucket.
Yeah.
Some of the things that are maybe more specific to social, things that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, right? Are like TikTok trying to test long form video content, right? With some capabilities of a video being up to 60 minutes. And what might the implications be for creative, and then also like a creative strategy for that. Or thinking about threads. And it's really cool to be able to see a platform sort of evolve and grow in real time, right? Like we saw now you can search within it. Hashtags became a thing. A couple of days ago, they launched the Threads API for third-party tools to be able to publish and monitor and get some insights there. And so that, of course, like changes how we work within that platform. And you said it, the TTB, the TikTok ban, and we're thinking about a world without TikTok. Not that we're saying by any means that it's coming, but then that makes us think about the use of short form video, right? And platforms or evolutions like a YouTube Shorts. How are we testing and learning now so that we can sort of take what we've learned and continue to make it impactful?
Yeah, I love that.
That totally matches like with what we've been trying to do, is not having all of your eggs in like one marketing channel basket, but maybe when these crazy like TikTok whispers start happening, where can we rely on other channels and jump into other things that are more reliable?
Yeah, no, great point. And you mentioned it, Aaron, so we have to talk about it. The very buzzy topic of AI. probably like both of you and most of the people watching, I keep seeing headlines about all of the ways that AI will cannibalize at least some chunk of roles and jobs in the marketing and creative space, which that's scary, right? You know, as a marketer, those headlines are kind of eerie, but then I pull back and I think about my actual experience and what that can tell me. And I work with a lot of marketing leaders, and I'm just not seeing that same rush to replace marketers with AI. At best, or at worst, I guess it's possible that some of the companies aren't hiring or hiring more entry level positions or immediately backfilling vacated positions on teams because of AI. That's definitely possible. It's probably pretty hard to track, but I keep thinking that 2.5 years into the dawn of generative AI, that the impact that was promised just doesn't seem realized. And I'm curious, both as leaders and marketers yourself, what your experience with AI has been. You know, is it something you're using, that your company is investing in, that you're making hiring decisions around? You know, how would you define your relationship with AI? And since you mentioned it, Aaron, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, of course. I mean, being a social media first company, we are always thinking about the future, right?
Mhm.
And our purpose is powering brighter futures. And we certainly envision a future with AI within it. And that means that we couldn't run for it, and we had to like bring it into our own practice. So we encouraged the team very early on to bring it into your own tool set, right? Don't have it be the end point, but what does it look like if it's the starting point, right? Or we've been seeing teams leverage it to diversify a perspective, um, or figuring out if you've got a target audience, how might you train AI to teach it to be a certain kind of consumer, and then what might you pull from that to get surface level insights.
Mhm.
I think for right now, we're trying to see, of course, like how can we leverage it in creative spaces, or just trying to like streamline comms or documentation. And I think we're excited by the potential around like how might we use it to build like proprietary tools down the line. And I think that's something that will take, just a dedication to innovation, and then also the thinking of how do we future proof our business also on behalf of our clients as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I know you mentioned that you guys have been working with AI in some capacity for a while now. What do you want to dig into that maybe?
Yeah, so definitely as an agency, we're leading big into AI. I think personally, I've been through like a whole series of emotions, with related to AI, maybe starting with disbelief to fear to acceptance, maybe now I think getting to excitement. But
Yeah, you
it's
want
been,
your own emoji, right? You want to see what you're going to make.
yeah, exactly. There's so many fun things that are possible. But I think a big theme with that has been trying to think about like not just what AI can do right now for us, because as you've seen, like sometimes some of it's not quite there yet. Like some of the execution with this stuff is just not good. But what is it capable of in 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now? We know this is just the beginning. So how do we learn the tools and build our own like comfort level and familiarity with them, so that as it gets better and better, like we're prepared, we're ready, and we're on the edge of that. I don't think anyone can like ignore this. This is obviously a huge shift. And so like however you address it, I don't think like ignoring AI is going to be the answer. At Marketing Architects, one of our values is technology first. And we think of that being like, what can technology do that technology is great at, so that people can do what they're great at? So like, let's give technology the like mundane stuff we don't want to do anyway, and free up people to be like more strategic and creative and innovative, which is like the fun work after all.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a sister company called Misfits and Machines that like is fully focused on innovation with technology and AI. So they're like digging big into all of that.
Oh, I bet they'd be some fun folks to talk to. Yeah, that was a big one. And honestly, it's one I'm always getting questions on and talking to people about. So I appreciate both of your perspectives. Maybe switching gears slightly, and really for those who are either in the agency space already or looking to break into it, what are ways that you both have been able to plug into the agency scene a bit more locally or nationally? Are there any groups, events, platforms, things like that you point people to. Aiyanna, I'll let you go first. What have been some favorites of yours?
I think LinkedIn is huge. I think I've underutilized LinkedIn for like years of my career, and I've started to just like find the connections that are available there and like networking with people, but also just like learning from content creators on the platform. There's some super smart people out there, much smarter than me, with a lot of like knowledge to share. So just being active there. And then I would say, based in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities have a lot of great smaller workshops. I'm more of a fan of like the smaller, go for a half a day with a group of 20 people versus like a 3-day conference with thousands of people. You called out the social media breakfast. They have a ton of great stuff. And I think like you can find a lot of stuff with just a Google search, or a lot of events do their ticketing through Eventbrite. So if you search on there as well, you can see what's going on currently.
Yeah, I think actually Social Media Breakfast has one tomorrow. I think it's on AI actually.
Oh, perfect.
So just a little plug for them. But how about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, second to Social Media Breakfast. I also have really been able to find great community in the Brand Lab, also based in Twin Cities. Their mission is to change the face and voice of the marketing industry, and I really value a lot of great learning that I get from their events. I also have found, a lot of these tools and platforms are also creating programming for themselves, whether they are panels or meetups and things like that. And so that's always a nice way to meet people that are like-minded or using similar tools. And then this is with a heavy social bias, but, creator or influencer meetups. I often find like grand openings for stores are also a great place to meet people in that community. You'll be surrounded by movers and shakers and people that get energy from other people. And that's always like a great way to make a connection.
No, that's a great point. Okay. Yeah, we've covered a lot. And I do want to be aware of everyone's time. We're coming up on a half hour here. So were there any final thoughts that either of you had before we wrap up and send everyone on their way? Aiyanna, maybe you?
I guess the only other thing, I think what's really top of mind for me right now is like marketing for the agency itself. Obviously, that's my job, but that's just becoming more and more apparent of how important that is, and how like agencies can't ignore that. It's really hard to trust someone to do your marketing if their own marketing looks terrible, or you go to their website and you're like, this hasn't been updated in years. So I think that's just like something that agencies need to, be investing in.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point and something we think about a lot as well. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this a little bit, right, around agency marketing and then also personal branding, and that took my mind in a place of, for the people that are maybe looking for their next opportunity or their next team and trying to think about like, how do I sell myself? I just, would put a voice out there that like whenever I talk about personal branding, it gives me the ick a little bit. And, I understand why it's critical. And I would just, urge you to just go back to, what comes naturally to you, what gives you energy on a low energy day. Ultimately, what you're trying to find is how you will consistently and authentically show up for others and yourself in a work environment. And so that's where I'd start. So yes, agency marketing and then also personal marketing. I think it also, ties together.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, thank you both so much. This has been such a treat. And thank you to everyone that joined us. Keep throwing comments, questions in the comment section. We'll pop in there and answer afterwards if they come up. And I know your lunchtime is super valuable. So I thank everyone for taking the time to join us. Aaron, Aiyanna, thank you again. Happy Thursday, everybody.